5 mindset tips that help me lose the weight and never go back. We're not talking nutrition strategy today, no exercise stuff. We are talking today about the deeper mindset and behavioral side of things that actually drive your consistency. This is the elephant in the room that I think many dieters are not addressing, and that's why absolutely, if you resonate, you need to address this right now, because hard reality check, this is what I learned absolutely the hard way. Doesn't matter which diet approach you try, doesn't matter which what I eat in a day video you get inspired by online, which recipes you try, if you can't actually stay consistent, none of them are going to work anyway. So that is the elephant in the room that people I think need to fix, and I certainly did. So I want to share with you anyway today 5 of the mindset shifts that really helped me break through with this. And number 1 is I had to learn that recovery speed was more important than the actual mistake in the first place. Years ago, when I gave into that first binge, I gave into that first chocolate craving, even if it was after like a good 1 or 2 weeks of dieting, there was such a drama, there was such a doomsday. I think both consciously and I'm sure unconsciously, some kind of story here that maybe I'm not cut out for this after all, what a big failure I am. I mean, it's kind of obvious really, if you keep witnessing, if your mind keeps witnessing yourself binge, it's really hard to retain the confidence that you are going to be binge free and you can get the slim, fit, healthy body that you want to believe you deserve. But these little moments, these little mistakes, they can sow these big seeds of doubt. For me though, it was then subsequently the case of the screw-its that I got for 2, 3, 4 days after the actual initial binge, the actual initial mistake. And I would let one bad day, one bad cheat turn into just like a week of a calorie surplus again. And it's so, you can have the big calorie spike. Like most people will be surprised they can get away with what is sincerely an occasional cheat day, and I really mean occasional. The problem is when the calorie spikes, when you go into that calorie surplus every single day, you'll know as well as I do, like, it is terrifying how quickly you can gain the weight back. A lot of it is water weight initially, obviously, but like it is terrifying, and that sucks, and it's a bit depressing, but it's the reality of the game. Like the fine margins between maintenance and weight loss and then weight gain, it is a bit depressing admittedly, but all the more reason why you need to be vigilant about not letting one mistake turn into 2. And I think I made such a drama about the initial mistake, I took from it sub-communicated to me, this was in my conscious self-talk as well, it wasn't just sub-communicated, I took from it, again, maybe I'm not cut out for this after all, why do I even bother, why do I even try? What I learned the long way, the hard way, is that actually the initial mistake, that first couple of cookies, first bit of chocolate, that wasn't actually the problem. In the grand scheme of my overall diet compliance, my adherence, my net weekly calories, it was never the original binge. It was never the original splurge. It was, again, the 2-3 days, the trend that I'd stack up on the back of this, and actually learning, no, I need to focus on the recovery speed, forgive myself for that mistake very quickly. It's hard to do. This is absolutely a game changer for me, just knowing that I can actually get back on track. Now, of course, you can't know that you can get back on track until you consistently do it. It's very hard to buy into this idea, but this is what you can eventually get to. How, like, you just have to sit in it when you've made that mistake and everything is telling you to have that second bit of chocolate cake and give up completely. You just have to sit in there, and you have to appreciate this is I know this is a stretch as a reframe, but what really helps me is this is an opportunity for a behavioral transformation that I can't usually tap into that well. I'm going to sit in here and I'm going to stay there, because if you can just limit those big calorie spikes to genuinely occasional moments and get yourself back on track, that really changes you. If you can stop little mistakes becoming a huge spiral, the more you do that, the more you get used to building that recovery speed. It's definitely a snowball. It's definitely a compounding thing. So you just need to understand that, like, this is a compounding effect, and the quicker you get back on track, the more normalized that will be to your brain, the less pandering and self-pity that you will feel around that initial mistake and then use it as a pretext, as an excuse to go off track the whole weekend. You just won't tolerate that of yourself anymore, and it'll all be eventually unconscious. Mindset tip number 2 that helped me lose the weight and never go back: creating a genuine state of emotional indifference around scale fluctuations. Hard, but years ago, I'd like throw my toys out the pram if I had one bad quote-unquote weigh-in. I'm doing quote-unquote because it's what I perceived to be a bad weigh-in. It wasn't necessarily, but if I perceived, oh, this is a really bad weigh-in, I was hoping, or this is one you got to be careful with, expecting, like arrogantly expecting that I'd have a huge drop. And then again, just drama, this is not all worth the trouble, juice isn't worth the squeeze. And this creates so much more deviation, so much more binging, so much more eating off track than it would be if you could just lock in and just be calm around what the scale is doing and troubleshoot it sensibly. And yes, maybe you are in a plateau, but you can then, from a very grounded, unreactive state, make the appropriate changes instead of doing the total opposite and actually eating more food and going back up the scale, and then it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, that's the worst thing you can do if you're actually in a plateau, is then start eating more food because you're so discouraged and depressed about it. I think what I now realize today, obviously you would like to think with my profession, but I think what I realized 1 or 2 years into really trying to lose weight consistently is that the amount of body fat you actually lose in, let's say, a 24-hour window, just to sort of put it in a nice, easy box to understand, well, it's so insignificant compared to all the things that can affect your body weight on a day-to-day basis, and I just didn't know this. I really thought that what the scale showed was a sign of how much body fat I had, and that is absolutely ludicrous when you consider that with a reasonable calorie deficit, you're going to probably lose less than, for me anyway, I'd lose maybe less than 100 grams. Only 100 grams is about 3.5 ounces of fat every single day, and in that 24-hour window, I might lose 100 grams of fat. Like, it's nothing. You think about like a tall glass of water that might be 500, 600, 700 milliliters. It easily outweighs the amount of fat you've got. So if the amount of fat you've lost in that period. So if you just have a bit more water in your system for one or a litany of reasons, that completely throws off your assessment that it's a bad or adversely even a good weigh-in. And I was just so emotionally reactive, so lost in these numbers. And what it did is create far more cheating, binging, excuses to go off track, excuses to give up, feel depressed, lack confidence that I can actually do this, lack the staying power to keep going. And how did I create that more genuine state of emotional indifference around the scale? I'm grinning because it was hard, honestly, but just, I think the reframe that really helps me is I'm seeing it as data collection. One weigh-in doesn't mean anything in isolation. We plot and we track the weight trend, and that's what dictates, to me anyway, the feedback system of is my plan working? If not, let's make changes, rather than getting just so lost in the individual little changes that really are no reflection on how much fat you're losing, gaining, maintaining in a single, short period of time. Mindset tip number 3 that helped me lose weight and never go back. About 2 years into my weight loss journey, I finally understood that I would lose weight far more quickly than my relationship with food improved. And I appreciate one of those things is a tangible measurement, pounds on the scale. The other one, relationship with food, that's messy, it's abstract, it's conceptual, and it's intangible. So it's kind of hard to compare and contrast, I admit. But anecdotally, this is what I noticed in myself, and I know loads of people resonate with this, but when you lock in, when you get focused, when you're really motivated, when the conditions are right, maybe there's no travel, no distractions, no social events, you can lose weight really quickly, especially if you're doing it with like an extreme, aggressive approach. For a short period of time, you can lose weight very quickly. Now, you, as well as I, will be the first to concede that it doesn't really matter if you gain it all back anyway. It's not even worth celebrating fast weight loss if you gain it all back anyway. But it took me a while to realize that actually the progress on the scale was always so much faster than my ability to deal with cravings and emotional eating. And even if I was 25 pounds down from my starting weight, I'd still engage in a lot of these behaviors from 1 to 2 years prior when I was much heavier. And then you're left slightly scratching your head thinking, hold on, why am I still stuck on these behavioral patterns despite being 25 pounds down? And yes, what the obvious epiphany there for me anyway at the time was, yeah, okay, the relationship with food stuff, it's hard, the goalposts shift on it, you're never always, for a long time anyway, in a really calm, controlled state. The longer that you're in the calorie deficit, the leaner that you get. There's an argument that it depends on your strategy, of course, how moderate, how sustainable it is, but the food noise goes up, your NEAT goes down, you get less margin for error perhaps in terms of the calorie density, you get a little bit maybe bored or tired, fatigued of the process, you're through the period of early wins, and so the motivation might naturally drop off a bit. Anyway, I was still engaging in a lot of the behaviors that actually got me to gain weight in the first place when I was already on the leaner side. And what's the lesson there? Yeah, that was just the humbling that I still mess up. I mean, it's so obvious to me now, and it sounds ludicrous that I'd even think this shouldn't be the case, but I mess up on the way. I still mess up on the way. Hey, even when I get to the goal, I still binge now. I'm really honest with you guys. I'm not perfect now. I still have these really off-plan moments. I'm not talking about like a controlled thing where I know I'm going out to eat and I'm going to enjoy it and have a bit of fun. Like, I'm still a naughty little rascal sometimes now. But here's the key thing to judge your relationship with food progress on. Is it less severe? Is it less frequent? Do you reconcile it faster with that recovery speed we spoke about in tip number 1? Do you do all of those things a little bit better than 2 years ago? That's what progress looks like, and it might always feel that it's a little bit or a lot behind the amount of weight you've actually lost, and that you should be cured of all these afflictions around food, but just about giving yourself some grace with that, I would say, and understanding that relationship with food is messy and complicated. And it can, for many people, feel a lot harder to actually solve that than lose the weight. And that's why weight loss doesn't feel permanent to a lot of us, because we still don't have, let's say, a fully controlled, trusting, for the most part, relationship with food. Mindset tip number 4 that helped me lose weight and never go back. Understanding that I always wriggle in the end. I wriggle like a little worm, even if everything is dialed, the food, the exercise is on point. Even if I'm getting results, you would think I have no reason to feel discouraged. I'm actually really empowered and inspired by the process, and it's this sort of constant weekly feedback loop where I can see the progress in the mirror. What reason do I have to actually stop? The fact I'm a human, mate, and just that inbuilt wriggliness to try and scram a little bit more food when you are long-term in that calorie deficit. You're deep in the calorie deficit, the food noise goes up, the leaner you get. I definitely notice there's more and more chatter in my head about food. Like, the first 10 or 20 pounds of weight loss for me back in the day felt a lot easier in terms of diet adherence than maybe the last sort of 10 or so pounds, and it's normal. This is what most dieters experience. Now, there's things you can do to minimize this stuff, but notwithstanding that, this generally seems to be the trend, that this process gets harder and harder and harder. And undoubtedly, there are both psychological and physiological, let's say, mechanisms in the body that will absolutely unconsciously get you to compensate with more food when you are long-term in that deficit. The NEAT, as I say, the non-exercise activity, that might drop as well. Again, this creates a finer margin for weight loss. It's actually a slightly different point, but I'm just wishing to say there are these compensatory sort of mechanisms within the body, and you don't realize, or I still made this mistake now, I still don't always realize how much I'm sneaking extra into my diet, and I'm a bloody coach, for crying out loud. Like, I have helped almost now 700 men and women across the world lose over 10,000 pounds combined, and I still have moments, guys, to be honest with you, where I'm like, hold on, I've gained a kilo in the last couple of weeks, and it's consistent as well, it's not a one-off weigh-in. I've gained a kilo in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure I'm eating my normal 25, 26-ish, 100 calorie. I'm not tracking everything, but I'm sure I'm there. And I really break it down. I start food journaling. I start being more mindful over the coming days, and I'm like, oh, I eat 4 apples a day now, whereas a couple of weeks ago I was only eating 2. It's understanding that the sneakiness, like, that's going to happen. Can I catch it really quickly? Can I not be caught off guard? Because honestly, the vast majority of time that people think they're in a weight loss plateau, it's not really a true plateau. They've just stalled out because they've added more calories than they think. And if they did a deep dive, bit of a diagnosis of their calorie intake every day, they'd be shocked they're actually eating maybe 100, 200, 300 calories more than they think, even if it's from healthy food. And this is why it's subtle. This is why it's a problem, because it's so subtle. Like with me, it used to happen so slowly that I'd just add that little bit more rice, a little bit more oats to breakfast. I'd stop measuring things, but I was sure I was eyeballing. So maybe I'm getting a bit more generous with the amount of ketchup that I'm using versus week 1 when I was really motivated, vigilant. I'll only use 10 grams of ketchup, and you just get a little bit carried away, and suddenly you're eating, plus 100, 200, 300 calories on top of your daily diet like that. I'll always eventually wriggle and sneak in extra calories. Never be shocked by it, but always be guarded and waiting for it. And lastly, mindset tip number 5 that helped me lose weight and never go back. Understanding that if I didn't feel like I truly deserved something, in this case a slim, fit, healthy body, that was no excuse to not try or to give up. And again, some of this stuff it's so unconscious, and maybe it sounds so conceptual and abstract as I talk about it, but I think a lot of times when we don't feel that it's in our realms of possibility that we can achieve something, when we don't feel necessarily super deserving of something, it can really be hard to get through the quitting points, the low moments, to G yourself up and to, maybe you've screwed up your diet, but to actually find it in yourself to go, all right, well, I've made a mistake here, but I still believe I can do this. I've got plenty of evidence. The rest of the week was really good. There's silver linings here. There's something here that means I don't have to give up, and I shouldn't give up. And there's other good stuff happening. I've got the foundation right, even if there's mistakes. I just think it's so hard to do that reconciliation and implement, as I said earlier, that recovery speed if you don't really feel like, number one, it's possible, or number two, you actually deserve, and I know this is on a more deep level, you deserve a slim, fit, healthy body. What I respectfully see with folks that have been overweight for a very long time is so hard to buy in. And why? It makes perfect sense. Why would you believe that you are deserving, entitled, that it's possible to be a slim, fit, healthy person if your mind doesn't have proof of its existence? But that's the trick. Don't let that stop you. You pursue it anyway, even if you don't have a sniff, even if there's no evidence that this could change for you and one day you could be that person you want to be. You just have to keep going in spite of that. You have to keep going anyway. And that's the insight, I suppose. And the one thing I wish to reassure you with, hopefully this is the light at the end of the tunnel, is with those wins along the way, with every 5, 6, 7 pounds lost, absolutely your confidence in this process goes up. Absolutely you can start imagining what you can really do. That's what happened to me. I never thought I would be as lean as I am today. Never ever believed that. Ever, ever, ever. Sometimes, still right now, it's going to sound braggadocious. When I look at my body now, I swear to you, I start laughing. I'm like, this is ridiculous, because young Ryan wouldn't have believed this. I always felt like, yeah, I could be slim, fit, healthy. When I was up at 88 kilos, I can get a bit of weight off. That's no problem. I always believed in myself. So I had a sense of deserving. But did I really feel this was possible? This current condition I'm in now was possible? Like around 12, 13% body fat, I estimate? No way. And that is just something that has progressively compounded in time. So even if you don't feel deserving, even if it doesn't feel possible, you keep going anyway with the peace of mind to know that you will attain that feeling that this is possible for you with each win. So just keep going, watch your confidence build. Wow, I mean, I love this subject, but it can be heavy stuff. But all of this is why I always say knowing what to eat is easy. Actually doing it consistently for 6 months to change your body is the really hard part. That's where everyone gets stuck, because that's where all of the mindset and behavioral stuff comes in. Doesn't matter what diet approach, as I say, you're trying. People obsessed with like nutrition strategy and recipes and like carbs versus fat versus protein, but that is not the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is when you go and eat 3,000 calories on the weekend and you mess all of this up, or you hit the plateau, you get so discouraged that you just throw in the towel altogether. If it's any consolation to you, and I think this will be some peace of mind, the clients I work with, the clients that join Slim and Sustain, they almost never need me to teach them what to eat. I would say about 80 to 90% of the time, my new clients, they're already doing a lot of the stuff I approve of before they start working with me. Like, they are that close, but that is how much that 10, 20%, the excess calories, the bingy behavior, the emotional eating, the way that knocks your confidence, and it can be a bit of a spiral, self-fulfilling prophecy. That's where people are really stuck. And I think most of us, we just need someone to help us implement consistency, because there's all the information out there on the internet. We know what to do. It's just about actually doing it day to day. If that sounds like you, by the way, of course you can go. I'll put the coaching link to learn more about what it looks like to work with me down below. We'll hold your feet to the fire and make sure you actually stick with this long enough to truly change. Lose that 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds or more, whatever it is you want to lose. But most importantly, we change the mindset, we change the behavior like I've shown today, because that is what allows you to feel in control and confident that you can actually keep the weight off for the long term. Not how fast you go down the scale, as I made the point earlier on, but no, I've actually changed with this process to the point where it almost feels automatic. I'm not going to be naive and arrogant, but it kind of is starting to feel really automatic and second nature that I can do this now and I can maintain my weight. That is a better feeling than the weight loss itself, because that gives you hope for the future. It's like, yeah, I've got this. This is a way that I can eat and live for the rest of my life. Such a cool feeling. Anyway, yes, link down below to learn more about my coaching. Hopefully this helped. Let me know which of these mindset tips resonated most in the comments below. See you in the next one.